Okay, a few more concepts with HA or high availability, and that is the basic concept that we want to have two or more systems that are in sync with each other, either at or near real time. And when we have these HA systems, they should really be as identical as possible. Okay, there can be some slight discrepancies, but we don't want to have one system that has twice the CPU or the networking capacity or memory. We want to make sure that they're pretty much identical. So that way, if one fails over, we don't necessarily see either a giant increase or a decrease in performance. So we have that kind of a known quantity, if you will, if failover does in fact occur. So in this example, we have site A and site B. And this is a virtualized example. So we have ESXi or VMware in the mix here, along with vPlex between two different sites. And the vPlex is an EMC technology that allows storage virtualization. And in an HA environment, it basically can write in two different locations. So it can basically split writes between two separate storage arrays and two separate ESXi clusters. And that allows for a couple different layers of HA and redundancy. So we could do something called vMotion and actually move workloads or move hosts or virtual machines from one cluster to another. We could do that proactively. Or if in fact we have an HA scenario where we have vPlex or some other type of storage virtualization in between, and we're actually writing to both arrays at the same time and they appear as one entity, so to speak. If that HA event, if something were to go down, ESXi cluster were to go down, that HA would kick in automatically. So we don't have to worry about trying to preemptively vMotion or storage vMotion between these two different clusters or these two different data centers. That could take place automatically. Now, as far as having these backup data centers or these HA data centers, they need to be relatively close. All right, so we can't really have them for an HA environment where we have to have that extremely low latency. We can't have them be 3,000 miles apart, okay, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. Electronically, it's just too far apart, right? And we can't, at least not as of yet, we haven't been able to get faster than the speed of light. So we have to really take that into consideration. So 30 to 50 miles away, if possible. Roughly a 600 megabit per second bandwidth is kind of like a general rule of thumb, and under 10 to 15 milliseconds of latency. Again, it's application dependent. Some are a little more tolerant, some are a little less. So it really depends upon your needs assessment, and when you do your actual site assessment, understand, okay, these are my applications, these are the HA requirements, the bandwidth, the latency, and so forth. You may find that 30 or 40 miles is sufficient. You may be able to get away with 300 or 400 miles. It just depends. All right. So that needs assessment, as you go through your application stack, you should identify what systems and applications actually need HA. Because again, HA is what? It's expensive and it's time consuming and it's resource intensive because we have to have duplicate or duplication pretty much across the board. Okay, servers, networking, storage, all of the tiers that make up a specific application need to be duplicated between two locations. And then we have to understand what systems and what applications need offsite DR or disaster recovery. Because again, there's a difference between HA and disaster recovery. High availability gives us that automatic failover with very minimal disruption. Disaster recovery, that has a higher basically RPO and RTO. All right, it's going to take us longer to get that application or that system back online because it's, again, more or less in a warm or a cold state, but it's still there. So our business isn't completely disrupted. It's going to be more of a disruption than an HA environment, but it still is there and we can get it back up and running in the event of some type of catastrophe.